everybody. Welcome to our 2 o'clock class, What to Photograph Inside and Outside Your Home. My name's Emily Hudjanowski, and on behalf of Hunt's Photo Education, thank you so much for being here. Hey, Mario. Mario's already said hello. Hey, Frank. I got a couple of regulars here who already know how to send me messages, already know how to add questions, but I'm going to guess we got a lot of people here, and we're still waiting on a few more, but we're going to get started soon anyways. I'm going to guess that many of you haven't taken a webinar with us before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but over on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see two icons, maybe a couple, but one in particular, you'll see a hand. That doesn't do much for me. When you hit the hand button, I know you're trying to get my attention, but if you click on that question mark button, you can send me a message. So I'm getting some hellos. Hey, Meg. Hey, Michelle. Go ahead. Let me know. It sounds like you guys can hear me, which is great. Let me just check my audio. Hello. Okay, I can see that it's working. I can't sing, but I always like to. Why not, right? We're trying to have some fun. Awesome. Looks like a bunch of you have found the side. Great. You guys can hear me. Awesome. Okay. So today, and video good. Thanks, Frank. I like hearing that. So today is all about fun, right? This is a free class, which is exciting because no pressure on me. Right? I don't have most of my classes, for those that don't know me, most of my classes are fun first with a lot of information. That's how I try to live my life, really, right? Can we have fun while still learning? And that's kind of how photography is for me. I want to make it as simple as possible, still have fun with it, and produce a good result. Sometimes for me, though, the actual production of the photography, the actual photographing is all I need to be happy. Sometimes I don't even care about the final result, right? There is an artist named Josie Lewis. She lives out in Minnesota, I want to say. I think she's out in that area. Yeah, Minnesota. And she's a phenomenal artist. And she's got a great, if you just like Google Josie Lewis art, she has one of the best TED Talks I have ever seen, and it's centered around this idea called flow. And flow is this scientific phenomenon that when we are into something that we're passionate about or doing something that makes us happy, everything else kind of just falls away, right? And when we're in that moment, next thing we know, hours could have passed by, but we're living in this moment, whatever it is we're doing. Now, for some of you, it might be jigsaw puzzles. I love a jigsaw puzzle. So sometimes I sit down and I say, I'm just going to put 5 pieces in. Next thing I know, 3 hours has gone by and I'm like, whoa, I'm just in the flow, right? You're just in it. That happens to me with photography a lot, specifically when I'm doing macro or still life shots, because I have more time to really sit and think about it. Hours can pass before I realize, man, I've kind of been working on the same thing. And I see this a lot on our photo walks, where students will just sit and photograph the same thing a million different ways. That's okay. That's a good thing. We encourage you to photograph things many different ways, but with a reason, right? Within reason. So we're going to talk about, hopefully, how we can get you guys into flow, how we can get you photographing and creating and just being downright happy. I hope so. That's my goal today. So I have lots and lots and lots of ideas for you guys. I have as many pictures as I could put together for today, and we got a lot of stuff to go over. So if you don't know, again, over on the right-hand side, question mark, you can send me a question. At the end, I'll answer them. If you guys have ideas as we go, at the very end, I'm going to be asking for your ideas, and I'm going to actually be adding them into the PowerPoint, so that way when I send it to you guys, we have this like huge collection of ideas that we can all kind of work off of, because I have been like ultimately inspired by this. This has only been an idea and on our calendar for a few days. I had another couple of classes I've had to put together, so this one, I could have spent weeks putting together, but I only had a couple days, so I did my best. But we're gonna have fun. Let's have fun. This is all about, right? So, oh, I was going on a tangent. Sorry. I'm gonna email you this. So you're gonna need an email of the PowerPoint, and it will be in PDF form. And then you'll get an email with this video. So it'll all be in the one email, but you'll get this video as well. I am being recorded. You are not. So this is being recorded right now. Let me double check. Yes, this is recording right now. So you're going to get a copy of the video. You'll see me, you'll hear me, and then you'll have the presentation as well to go off of. So Let's take a look. Now, most of these images are going to be mine, but I'm a big believer in giving credit where credit's due. So if I know who took it, I'm going to tell you. And if not, I'll be honest and say, I found that on Google and it was a good one. So once again, welcome. My name's Emily Hujnowski. My email is easy. It's just emily@huntsphoto.com. And my Instagram is HodgePhoto. That's where I post the most, and actually one of my favorite places to find inspiration. But I go back and forth between using it often and not using it at all for months at a time, because that's just how I am with social media. It can get overwhelming. So first things first, your family, right? What are we going to shoot? So today's idea is getting some ideas and talking about things that we can photograph inside and outside while still being safe, right? So nothing that I'm going to suggest today, please, 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 please do not think that I am trying to get you out of the house or have you break any rules. Not at all. All I'm saying is we have options. This photo was taken right before the quarantine, but it is recent. And I thought, I really like this image because this is still a portrait. This is still a photo of RJ. Who are we stuck with? Well, our family. So I'm home with RJ, my husband, and our 2 dogs. So I've been taking some pictures of RJ as I can. I love when he's sleeping. You'll notice I take very little photos of RJ face on. Those of you, I don't share a lot of pictures of RJ just because I'm weird about that. But when I do, it's not often his just like normal happy face. This bottom left hand corner is my is my nephew George that I took over the summer. But just imagine, if RJ was still this little, absolutely. I'm just going to put him down on a soft blanket. We're going to head next to a window, and I'm going to photograph him as much as I can. Probably going to hold some jangly keys or something that makes noise right above the lens, and that's kind of the stuff I'd be working on. But I'm home now with RJ. It's very difficult. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's very difficult working from home with a 5-year-old here. I know many of you completely understand. Some of you even have more children. And my apologies, I'm a little off today. My dog's currently at the animal hospital, so I'm feeling a little weird. My middle child, as I say, she's only 7. She's in the hospital right now, so I'm having a day. But we're gonna talk about pets in just a second. So I'm just giving you the disclaimer now. So my eyes get a little watery. I'm not always this emotional. So your kids, your family. Now, I didn't include any pictures of my husband, but essentially, what's one of the best things you can be photographing? Your family, the people you're stuck with. Maybe you live with a roommate, maybe you live alone. Well, if you live alone, I'm going to very much encourage you to do some self-portraits. And I know most of you are like, nope, nope, nope. One of my friends who I think is here today, hi, Becky. Becky had a birthday recently, and I told her, I said, I challenge you to take a picture of yourself, because Becky is totally the type who doesn't take photos of herself. And I'm in that category. I don't ever take photos of myself, and I don't want people to take pictures of me. But now is the perfect time to practice your self-portraits. Practice posing. One of the best things you can do for yourself is see how you pose and how flattering is it, because it will help you direct models. This is a good thing too. If you are a portrait photographer and you want to get better, try to work with your family to see if they will pose for you, if they will take the time to work with you. Now, some of you might not like pose portraits. You can tell that I'm kind of in that category. I don't do as many pose portraits, not for my family, clients, and things like that, sure. But for me, I love capturing moments of RJ just living. I'm a huge fan of lifestyle photography. So just him sleeping, which is one of my favorite times to photograph him because he's got these like huge pouty lips when he sleeps, or just like being a kid. Those are my favorite photos from when I was little, seeing photos of myself. What was I interested in? The favorite photos for me, of course, are the pictures of me when I'm 4 and 5 holding cameras. I love that. Pictures my dad took of me while I was trying to learn how to photograph when I was a little kid. So I'm really trying to capture RJ at 5. He's about to be 5.5. So what is he interested in? He loves Legos. He loves cars. He loves trains. So trying to take pictures of him without him even noticing, so I can get those real emotional, candid portraits. And what better time to practice than now? So when it comes to the self-portraits too, what I'll tell you is nobody even needs to see them. You're taking them for yourself. You don't have to share them. I try to take a portrait of myself on most of my birthdays. Sometimes it's just a cell phone selfie, but I do them so infrequently that months will go by before I'm like, man, a photo hasn't been taken of me. I think it's important. because while I don't want the photos, I am sure that RJ is going to want the photos. I hope so, because I want all the pictures of my parents when they were younger. I don't care. I want the pictures of them when they were 30, 20, 10. I want all their photos. I hope RJ will feel the same way about mine, that he will want to keep these photos. So first things first, let's take pictures of our family. And this, stolen straight from the internet, maybe some of you have seen these before, maybe some of you haven't. This is a newer fad. I love it. This trend can live forever. Basically, what people have done is they're looking back at their old family photos and recreating those photos. So if you're stuck at home with your family, or maybe you have some old photos of yourself, like this one over here, how fun to try to recreate these. You know, I know in Hunt's education, we often strive for not perfection, but we're striving for high technicality, high compositional. Well, you know what? There can be high emotion too. I'm a very emotional person, but this, to me, this is awesome. It doesn't have to be the best perfect, technically. It's a great photo, and what a fun project to work on. I have a lot of these that would be great. Unfortunately, my sister doesn't live with me anymore, but who's in most of the photos with me, but any ones of myself, that would be really fun to try to recreate and get creative. Maybe you're not living in your old family home, but you can kind of try to make it look like that. Pets. Second best thing in our lives, take pictures of. Some will argue first. I'm probably one of those. I take way more pictures of my dogs than I do of my son. Just because they're easy to work with, and they tend to listen to me a little bit more. It's funny, they don't even speak English, but they still listen to me a little bit more. But your pets, another thing you don't even have to leave the house for. You can do this all from home. Every single one of these photos is taken in natural light. 3 of them are indoors. This one of Lily is outside, but just outside in her backyard. Nowhere crazy. I am teaching an entire class just on photographing pets this Friday, so I won't go too much into it, and I'm not going to talk too much about technical today anyways. But I really like this one of Gracie over here, because my challenge for her was, I noticed that her coloring matched the rug, so I specifically moved her to try to get her to match. Here we've just got this lovely portrait of Luna with some soft window light. Again, this is just window light, outdoor diffused light. I think she might have been a little bit of shade. That's why there's no harsh light. And here, just a little detail. This is actually the only photo of one of my dogs, and this is actually Lux, who's in the hospital right now. But she's got these great jowls. Some of my favorite things, I know puppies have these. All dogs are puppies to me, so FYI. So puppies have them, but cats do too. The little toe beans, the little teeny tiny little pictures of their little paw pads. Great details. Their nose, their paws, their nails, there's so many different defining details. Maybe there's a particular quality. Lux's tail, we have no idea what breed she is. She's a rescue. We think some kind of Rhodesian Ridgeback boxer mix. No idea. But her tail has this little switchback kind of pattern on it, where it really has a zigzag pattern down her tail. And that's one of those things that I have always tried to capture in a photograph, because it's uniquely hers. So something to think about. Take some pictures of your best friends. Especially, you never know what's going to happen, but you'll always regret not taking more photos. That's all I'm going to say. So, insects, right? So, we've got the lovable pets, and then we've got insects. Some things that might be, some, visitors that might be around us that we might not want there. Now, it really kind of depends on where you live. Some of you are, tuning in from apartments, and you might not have a lot of backyard. I live in Lynn. I've got nothing going on in my backyard. I have a small backyard basically for the dogs and very few bugs. I got a couple of ants, but not these nice Japanese beetles. But I'm sure if I really looked, I could find something, but it really has to do with where you are. So if you can, in your area, find some bugs. It can be a great subject. It doesn't always have to be macro. Both of these are macro shots, macro meaning close up. So these are really close, but don't forget about some bugs. Challenge yourself. And I'm going to keep saying this constantly, that if you've never taken a picture of a bug before, force yourself to take a picture of a bug. This Japanese beetle photo was the first time that I had actually taken the time to photograph an insect. It was in the wild. You can tell they're having a little bit of a party up in Maine when I found them. But I couldn't stop myself. That the coloring was so phenomenal. But this was my first foray, and this was a crazy subject, obviously, and they're moving around a bit, but not as much as you might think. Now over here, though, this little ant on the left is just moving up and down this leaf, up and down this leaf. But it was a tricky photo to get, but it was so satisfying. I have this, I always say that sometimes when you just get it right, you get this feeling in your stomach, these little butterflies. That was a butterfly moment for me because I thought, this is actually going to be sharp. This little ant is going to be sharp. So don't forget about insects. Get out there, take a look at some bugs. Some of you are like, this is disgusting, Emily. Change the slide. You got it. So what else is in the garden? Flowers. Again, please don't break any rules. I'm not sure where you're calling in from or watching from. I don't know what's going on in your neck of the woods, but things are tough in Massachusetts. Things are really shut down. We've got a lot of cases. People are sick. We got to protect each other. So one of the things we're still allowed to do, and everybody is to take a walk, get some fresh air, of course. Stay away from people, be safe. Don't go anywhere there's a lot of people. But if you can find just some flowers that might be in your garden, it might be in a public garden, or maybe in a community garden that might still be open that you can walk by, again, being completely safe, don't dwell there. But just another thing. Or the next time you are picking up your groceries that everybody needs, grab some flowers from the florist. You can shoot all of these indoors. Now all of these are shot from outside because I don't do as much still life flower stuff indoors because I kill everything in the house like so quickly. So for me, when flowers are in my house, it's like 5 minutes I can photograph them before they just wilt in front of me. But so I try to go for live plants as much as I can. But these are very easily, pick up something from home, or at the grocery store. Actually, last year we taught an entire class just on photographing flowers. We do this every year. We do what's called a capture to print. So we spend the morning photographing the flowers. We spend the afternoon editing and then printing those images. So it's a really like full photo process kind of day. And last year we had brought in some daffodils in a little potted plant. And at the end of the class, what do you do with the flowers? Well, I brought them home and they started looking kind of like they were dying. So knowing the little bit I do about plants, I planted the daffodils in this teeny little box of dirt we have in the front of my house. And what do you know? They're back again this year. I'm so excited. So for me, it's kind of like the long haul here. I didn't know this would happen last year, but I'm so excited because this week I'm going to be able to take photos of flowers outside of my house. And I have not had flowers outside of my home, this Lynn house, since early 90s. So it's been a long time. So I'm excited about that. So if you can find some flowers, that's great. But it's not just flowers. It's nature in general. And I think people do not pay enough attention to other aspects of nature. Now, some of you might be nature photographers and you're like, yeah, duh, I take pictures of this stuff all the time. But do you actually have to have a flower? Absolutely not. This over here, this fiddlehead, we've got some beautiful leaves on this ocean rose bush. It was like a strange bush with a jagged leaves on a really foggy day, and that's what all that water's from. Here's some leaves that are just about to fall off a tree, and then a lone rock on the beach with some waves. This is all accessible to you. The beach in particular, I know in the North Shore, you can still walk the beach, you just can't congregate there. So go for a solo walk with your camera and explore. Don't stay long, but get some fresh air. Absolutely. Another place that we go often, which I have no idea what's going on with it, but Horn Pond in Woburn. I'm not sure if that's open or not, but that is a really nice area to go and explore. And I love Lynn Woods. I am a huge fan of Lynn Woods. It's a wonderful place to really, especially being from Lynn, which is one of the most congested cities in Massachusetts. We don't even have a highway. I don't know if you guys know this. We're like the 7th most populated city in Massachusetts, and there's not even a highway in Lynn. It's crazy. But Lynn Woods, it's so incredible. We have the ocean, we have Lynn Woods, and then we've got this crazy industrial city kind of in the middle. It's a beautiful place to be alone, get some space, and find subjects like this. Now, I actually know of some nature photographers, as a little pro tip for you guys, who walk around with spray bottles in their backpack so they can actually wet leaves, flowers, and plants that they find as they go, or maybe rocks if they just need add a little bit of moisture. You can always use your water bottle, but it's a little bit trickier dumping water than it is spraying the water, but just a little fun fact. And if you're going to a place that has water anyways, well, then you can bring the water bottle and just fill it up with some fresh water. All right, so let's get back inside for a minute. Food, something we all have, one of the most accessible subjects you have. It can be as simple as an eggplant lit by a window, or it can get a little bit more complex by adding props, lighting, and styling. I do have an entire food class I teach. I am passionate about food photography. This is one of the best genres of photography because food means so much to so many people, and depending on your culture and your heritage, it might mean something different to you. So here we just have some eggplants lit by a window. But here, using this, my favorite white colander, who's actually a student, Lisa, thank you again, Lisa, for letting me borrow this, with just a linen napkin underneath, just some blueberries. Again, this actually, while the eggplant is window light, this blueberry is with my flash, but it's been modified to make it appear a little bit more like window light. And here last, these French fries that have been seasoned, again, just a cloth napkin. We got some ketchup in a little container. Now this kind of like craft paper behind it, that is the paper that came in my Amazon delivery of my dog food. I use it as a background. Why not? It has this great texture and it kind of gives this almost I don't know. It just gives me this feeling of like a pub kind of feeling, because I feel like they have that kind of brown butcher block paper. Now, something else that's in your kitchen, oil and water and soap. You do not need a macro lens to do this. It just helps. One of the most important things that you can know is how close your lenses focus. That's a really good project for you. Figure out all of your lenses, which one is going to focus the closest. That will help you as you're stuck inside, see which ones you can get a little bit closer. This top left image, I have some colorful paper underneath a Tupperware container, and that Tupperware container is full of water. And on top of the water, I've just added a little bit of oil. And that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing the patterned paper through the oil bubbles, which are on top. The trick is focusing on the bubbles. Now, down in the bottom left, this is just dish soap in water with, again, some colorful paper behind it. And then the top right, adding a little bit of a mix. I have dish soap, oil, and water with a different colored paper underneath. So it can be really fun. You can add colored lights or use colored lights. What a lot of people will do, and this is crazy, I love this technique. Instead of, I just use a flash, I use white light here. You could use colored light. You can take a flashlight and put cellophane, colored cellophane over it, and some of you might not have colored cellophane. Well, you can buy candy wrappers, right? Those hard candies, like a strawberry candy might have red, or a butterscotch candy might have yellow. But there, you'd be surprised at how many things in your house might be translucent and colorful. For example, my water bottle is pink. This would be a perfect thing if I wanted pink light. I could put a really strong flashlight behind this and add pink lighting to this scene. And I mean, that goes for anything you're doing, but this is a really, really fun technique, but it is messy. I'm gonna be honest. It can be messy if you're not careful. There are tons and tons and tons and tons of tutorials on how to do this, and techniques, and what works best and what doesn't. One of the things that if you're trying to blow bubbles or have the bubbles stay for a really long time, you can add glycerin. One of the things I think I mentioned at the very end in my general idea, but bubbles in general, not necessarily bubbles in water, but just a regular, you know, like kids blowing bubble. Those can be really fun to photograph as well, because you have all these beautiful rainbows, but they can be really tricky because they pop so quickly. So one of the tricks is to add glycerin to it, which will just thicken it up. And you can buy glycerin at most pharmacies and grocery stores, or places like Michael's, but I know a lot of those places are closed, so Amazon might be your best bet. Excuse me. In abstract photography in general, have fun. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want to do. You can have it be as crazy, as busy, as powerful as you want, or it can be something that's a little bit more simple, just made up of shapes. I love it. No rules. So, also in your kitchen utensils. Full of great props to use. My favorite way to photograph kitchen utensils is close up and in an abstract way. There we go. So the top two images, there's a kitchen knife. It's like a large serrated knife that we had in the, actually, these are actually all shot at Hunt's. This was in our Hunt's employee kitchen. There's just this big knife. You can kind of see the grooves there. I'm just focusing particularly here. Again, I'm just adding colored light, nothing crazy. These would look great with white light as well. I'm just adding a little bit of a different color. You could always add colored paper as well behind it. Here, the handle of the knife. And then these 3 images, cheese grater. Top 2 lemon, red knife. Other 3 are different sides of the cheese grater. A cheese grater is one of my favorite things in a kitchen because you can do so much with it. You can photograph the actual cheese grater, or you can shoot through the cheese grater and create kind of a mesh effect in front of the lens. A lot of cool things that you can do. And again, just adding some colored light to get a little bit of a different look. Now, office supplies are another fantastic thing that you have in your house. I'm going to challenge you, don't just take a picture of the supplies, try to take a picture of them in an abstract way. So here we have just a stack of staples. Again, I was playing with some colorful lighting that day. So lighting the staples, getting some nice deep shadows here, and this just an old school telephone cord that we found at Hunt's. So using this telephone cord to get some cool shadows and just unique shapes and textures. Now over here, you're going to see this. I have a couple of accounts I'll talk about later of some really dynamite inspiration. But Wit Enry is this account on Instagram. It's just this gentleman. I think his name's Adam. His last name might be Adam. Anyways, it's a guy. And what he does is he calls himself an object arranger. And what he does is he takes normal everyday objects and just arranges them in these fantastic patterns and compositions, to the point where I have to close my eyes when I say it, because I just am so in love with this guy's work. He's so talented. These are just paper clips. I mean, how amazing. I have a couple more images by him as we go. But office supplies, one of the greatest things that you have in your house. You can do so much with it. Actually, Bobby Lane, who is a famous photographer, but she's worked with us many times, and a good dear person that I know. Bobby Lane, if you look at her Facebook, BOBBILANE is her name, Bobby Lane. She actually just posted 2 dynamite images of office supplies. One were of tacks, and one was an image that was, I think, a white piece of paper with 5 paper clips on top of it with a white background. And the contrast with those paper clips, it was dynamite. It was dynamite. Something simple, but it's photographed in such a way that it makes it interesting. Same thing here with what Wit Enry does. It's a simple paper clip, but look what he's able to do with it. Now, art and craft supplies are another thing that everybody has in their house, and you can really photograph. So this is a photo I took the other day while just playing with some stuff. I'm a big fan of rainbows and bright colors, and I have a lot of writing utensils. So just taking, just a nice gradient, nice rainbow there. Now, these are not my images. These are 2 images that I had saved to Pinterest. These are from Instagram, but I am a huge, I have a lot of hobbies. So photography is my passion. It's a hobby, but it's also my life's work. This is my job. So I'm an artful person, got to keep my hands busy. So when I'm not photographing, one of the other things that I do is cross stitch and embroidery. So these are 2 dynamite images, photographing the supplies, but also their hobbies. And this is a really big thing for me that I can really, I say really a lot. I like adjectives. I believe that it's important for everybody to take photos of the other things they do. Maybe you like to fish. You should take photos of your tackle boxes, your favorite little baits, your favorite hooks, your favorite reels. Photograph them in a unique or interesting way. Maybe you like vehicles. Maybe you like cars. Maybe you can come up with an idea of how you can put your passions, your hobbies together. I'll talk a little bit more about that. I do have some more samples of this, but I love this because it's not just the project that they're working on. You have everything else. This is a dynamite composition here, but you have other things that go along with the image, that go along with it. So here, it's not just this gorgeous, embroidery. It's also fabric. We have the scissors, the wrapped bobbins, as well as the thread still on the main spools. Love this. Great idea. Maybe you like scrapbooking. What do? I like scrapbooking. I do cross stitch is my number one, I would say right now. But maybe you're an artist, you have more art supplies. I mean, it could be anything. It could be sports. Maybe you have a lot of baseball memorabilia. Could be there's a lot of great stuff. But fun and games, board games, something that most people have in their house. This is just like an inexpensive, ooh, I should have removed that. My apologies. I haven't really looked at these images yet. But this is just an inexpensive set my husband got me for my birthday a couple years ago because he knows I love games. So it came with checkers, this really like vinyl board, and then these small, they're actually wooden, not plastic, but these little wooden pieces. And then it also came with the Chinese checkers. I had to rotate every single one of these so that way you couldn't necessarily see how the balls are made out of plastic. And then up in the top left, just I think this is backgammon. I'm sorry, I've never played it. I've always wanted to learn. It looks interesting. I just like the way the board looks. But I found this in an antique shop. But this could be something that you have in your home. We love board games. I've actually recently taught RJ how to play Monopoly as well as Sorry. Sorry is a little tough because he always goes, sorry, now every time he does anything wrong. But they're phenomenal subjects. You can put them together like I have done in the bottom left, where I kind of like mixed and matched, or it can be specific. And once you have one of these games, you have at least a dozen different ways to photograph it, right? Because you can photograph just the pieces, you can photograph one piece, you can photograph a group of pieces, you can photograph them on the board, you can make it look like you're playing a game, you can photograph them from above, you can photograph them from below, you can make them look large. I mean, the options are endless. It's very exciting. And toys are another great thing. You know, I'm lucky I got a 5-year-old at home, so for me, toys are Legos, vehicles, trains, and got a lot of that kind of stuff. So here I was teaching a Lens Baby class, and I wanted to show one of the Lens Baby products. So just taking a picture of his Batmobile, and here just adding some rainbows, making it some fun. Here we have a couple of inmates with a firefighter. So just RJ put this together for me, and he made a little scene, and we photographed it together. So that can be one of the most fun things you can do. I am very lucky because RJ is super interested in photography. He really much loves seeing the photos. I think most of it he just likes seeing himself. But he loves seeing the photos. So now that I've been working on some still lifes and macros for other classes, he has been thrilled to try to help me set things up. So when I ask him, you know, can I have a cool car? He's the one that goes out and finds me something like the Batmobile. And I mean, what a great Batmobile that is, right? And you got to remember, you know, this thing's only yay big. It's a Matchbox or Hot Wheels probably, but toys can be just a phenomenal thing. And one of the best things for me is, again, I like to document things. I'm not always just like, okay, here's a picture of the toys RJ liked to play with when he was 5 and a half. I'm trying to do that, but in a little bit more of an artistic way, a little bit of a way that I could hone other skills. So while, yeah, I am making sure that I'm remembering that RJ had this really cool car, because I'm going to forget that even in a couple years from now, I'm also practicing making sure that I'm fine-tuning my focus, or how am I going to add in these rainbows with a new type of tool that I'm using. Here I'm trying to work on just showing depth of field. This was a super quick setup for another class, but it does help me fine-tune skills. And it's going to be really fun later to look back and be like, RJ, look at these crazy toys you had. I've been on a really big kick lately. I'm a huge Pinterest user, and so I've been finding old toys, vintage toys that I used to play with when I was a kid, and it's just been opening up doors of my memory that I just did not know even existed. Seeing toys and all of a sudden being transported back and be like, holy moly, I remember opening that up and playing with that on Christmas morning, and I remember exactly how I felt about it. It's been happening. Polly Pockets are a big one for me, and American Girl dolls and Barbies and things like that. I'm a child of the 90s, so Lisa Frank and Pokemon and all that. So seeing these things now, it's really opening up to me. So I'm kind of doing this because I hope that when RJ graduates high school, or maybe gets married, or has a child of his own, I will be able to present him with some kind of little time capsule of, this is what you were like when you were a kid. I think it'll be nice. Collections. What do you collect? How many ways can you photograph your collection? You can organize by size, color, texture to add even more compositional diversity. I have been a collector my whole life. I've always been interested in collecting things. When I was a kid, I used to collect rocks and seashells, basically anything I can get my hands on. If things looked similar, I've always liked putting them together. If things are the same color, same texture, etc. These again are just some images I found, but what do you have a collection of? Can you put it together in a unique way? Most of you probably have a collection you don't even think about. Essentially, anytime you have more than 3 items, 3 or more, that's a collection of something. So, if you have 3 unique die that you like, 3 dice that you really, really like, photograph them. That is a collection. Sometimes it might be guitars. Maybe you have 3 guitars or 5 guitars. Photograph them. How can you photograph them? I think it's a really, really cool thing to do. And actually a project that I have been working on for a couple of years is photographing people with their collections, kind of like an environmental portrait. And this can be really fun. Maybe you are quarantined with a loved one, or one of your kids has a collection of something, photograph them with it. Those can be some really fun photos, especially when they might not longer collect it. My mom collects Wizard of Oz memorabilia. She always has. She's just obsessed with Wizard of Oz. And so she hates having her photo taken, but I swear my number one goal in life, photography wise, when it comes to my family, is capturing my mom with all of her memorabilia, just kind of gathering it together and creating just kind of like overwhelming portrait of the work, the massive collection and all the different pieces. I think it'd be really fun because you can always photograph a single object. If you have a particular piece in your collection you really like or it's hard to get, a particular camera you've collected, you can photograph that separately. But then you can start adding in more and more pieces and building up these larger still lifes. Here, photographer Rick Gale, who's actually a food photographer, he took his collections of bowls and plates and used interesting lighting to make them truly pop. This just plates and bowls. Yeah, they've got some great colors, but there's nothing inherently interesting or exciting about them. He's just arranged them in such a way. This is really brave, these bowls here. When I first saw these images, I had to grab them. I had to, because these would still be, he's a food photographer. These are still kind of considered food photography, but they're also still life. They can also be considered product photography. This kind of falls into a bunch of categories. I might not call them food photography, but they're definitely along those lines because we need them to eat the food or hold the food. But just another really interesting thing. And so, it could be a collection like this, something you haven't even realized is technically a collection. So, flat lays. Flat lays are a fantastic way to take ordinary objects and turn them into something extraordinary. This again, Wit Enry. So these 3 here on the sides, these square ones, are his. These are just a few of his works. You can tell I screenshotted these even from Instagram because you can't save images from there. But these are matches that have been meticulously arranged and burned to make this pattern. This is not photoshopped at all. This is just him arranging the objects in a unique and interesting way. These crayons, again, this is like such a it like boggles your mind, but he has sliced the crayons, just the wrappers of those crayons off, and has created this amazing pattern. And look at these eggs. I mean, how cool is that? Who even thinks of this stuff? He does. It's amazing. And then another one I like is Twiggy Abby. She is actually a painter. She paints rocks and geodes and things like that. So she I don't even know how. I'm so bad at describing this. I'm so sorry. She doesn't like take a rock and put the paint on the rock. She takes a piece of paper and looks at the rock and says, I'm going to paint that garnet. And she creates this beautiful artwork of a garnet. It's incredible. So this is one of her flat lays. She takes a lot of objects from nature and just arranges them in an interesting, pattern. Here, I mean, this really, it kind of boggles your mind. She's made a perfect circle here. It's incredible. It is really incredible. I'm a big fan of this like little squiggly stick because, she just collected these things as she takes walks, in nature. If I saw this squiggly stick, I'd think, oh, that's cool. Shame on me for not thinking, oh, that's cool. I could totally use this as a prop later because I got to keep my mind open to those things. But inspiration. So flat lays. Flat lays are not utilized often in all different types of photographies. There's certain types like still lifes, product, and food, which we do a lot of top down. We do a lot, it could also be called top down, when you're looking directly above an object. So for many of you stuck at home, I know a lot of you tuning in are landscape photographers or portrait photographers, and you are just dying for something to do. Flat lays. So much fun. Can be tricky if you don't have a tripod that will go straight down, because then you have to hold your camera and look straight down, but that's okay. The big thing is mind your balance. When I look straight down, I tend to get really dizzy for whatever reason, only when looking through my camera, not when I just look straight down. But when I have my camera in front of my face, I can never hold still, it feels like. So I'm going to challenge you. That's another challenge for you, is to try some flat lays. I don't see enough of these, and I would like to see more from our students. I see a lot of, low depth of field. I want to see some flat lay images with some nice focus. Photograph your interests. So this is just, I found these Legos. I like Harry Potter. Again, child of the 90s, right? So Harry Potter had these Legos, this little Hedwig, and then I had this huge book that was actually the illustrated copy of the Sorcerer's Stone. And then I had that checkerboard from before, previously shooting those pieces. And chess in checkers is a wizard's chess is a huge part of the first book. So it was kind of just like, okay, do these objects really go together? No, but in this case, in the story I'm trying to tell, they totally do. So just photographing your interests. So what else am I interested in? Disney, right? Some of you may know I'm a huge Disney fan. I love Mickey Mouse. Big fan of Disney. So that's a really fun thing for me, is how can I walk around my home, gather some Disney things or something that reminds me of Disney, and kind of show that's what I'm interested in. I also kind of want to put these things together. While I don't think people fall into boxes, you can't like always check a box like, oh, Emily's a nerd, so she has to be into these things. I'm totally a nerd. I'm totally a geek, whatever you want to call me. But I'm not into everything that everybody else is interested in, right? But Harry Potter specifically, I love to read. I love books. I love art. I love photography. I love Mickey Mouse and Disney. I love nature. It's like, how can I bring these things together? Maybe I categorize them separately, but how can I bring these things together? So photograph your interests. What interests you that you have at home? Of course, what do you have at home that you can bring together to kind of try to make something a little bit unique? Now, this is kind of out of the box. It's a little random, but I want to give you guys something unique to work on. This is called photo elasticity. If you use the light from your laptop or tablet and a circular polarizing filter, you can photograph the stress on translucent plastic items such as utensils and rulers. Sorry, this should say rulers. So here, this is just actually the end of a plastic knife, the handle of a plastic knife. And this background on both of these is actually my laptop screen. So that's the light that's shining through and lighting my plastic here. And because I have this circular polarizer and the particular light that's coming out of my iPad or my laptop, I am able to actually see where the stress is in the plastic and able to create these very unique rainbow effects. This is really cool. Again, all you need is your laptop, an iPad, and something that's plastic, and then you need a circular polarizing filter. What if you don't have a circular polarizing filter and you'd like to try this? Have no fear. HuntsPhotoandVideo.com is still open. We are still taking orders. The store is closed, but let us know. Send us an email, give us a call. They're still checking messages and things like that, so we can definitely help you out with that. If you actually email managers@HuntsPhoto.com, somebody will help you out and make sure that we can take care of that for you. As you actually rotate the filter, the rainbows change and you get different effects. Now, one of the really cool things that you can do, plastic packaging. So, do I have anything around me? No, I'm in the basement. So What can I think of? Plastic wrap that's on different products, that kind of like crunchy plastic, not the saran wrap style plastic, but that crunchy plastic that often covers packages or new products. If you open those and use that plastic, you can actually place it in front of the object or behind the object and create even more rainbows. So this is just a plethora of things. And actually, unfortunately, I was trying to do this up in Manchester on St. Patrick's Day, which was right when things started closing down. So hopefully in the future we can have another class like this, but it's very easy to do in your home and it's super cool. So anything that's translucent and plastic. So you might have a hard time finding certain things, but I found a couple of rulers and then some utensils. That was easy. Okay, so this is a paper towel that has food coloring on it from when RJ and I were doing our colored eggs this year, when we made hard-boiled eggs and then colored them. I had this new technique I saw online to tie-dye the eggs, where you take you take the hard-boiled eggs, you put it inside a paper towel and wrap that paper towel around it and then drop the food coloring and then spray water and you get this really beautiful effect. Well, I realized that it was all kind of crunched up and it reminded me almost of this kind of landscape effect. So I just set it up. I lit it in a particular way and I said, you know what? It just reminds me of kind of like a mountain. I lived in El Paso, Texas for a few years, and this reddish orange color is exactly the color of the mountains. You wouldn't see this much green, but this orange, the Franklin Mountains down there, absolutely. So it just can be really fun. So don't be afraid to photograph, again, everyday objects, but in a unique way. So then I started realizing, okay, so I took the other paper towels and I just started photographing the edges of them because the color was so intense and so unique. I just knew, well, I felt like I was just going to toss them out. I had to do something with them. So I just started photographing them. So something totally normal, just having some fun. Now, Don Toothaker has said this for years, and it's one of the best advice, and I think he got this advice from somebody else, and so now I'm passing it along. Don't just shoot nouns, shoot adjectives. So don't just take a picture of the bridge, take a picture describing the bridge. Take a picture of that strong, dark, industrial bridge. That's like the biggest thing to get yourself out of taking kind of product photos and get you into a little bit more artistic. So here's just a couple of adjectives, and textures being another one. If specifically, not necessarily going out to photograph objects, but going out to photograph a particular type of texture. Now you can break this up a couple of different ways. You can challenge yourself, and I do, I hope you guys challenge yourself. You can say, you know what, today I'm only going to photograph objects that are smooth. That's it. And so then that's it. You have to go out and find objects that are smooth or in your home. You go on the hunt, a scavenger hunt. This is kind of all scavenger hunts, right? And you look for objects that are smooth, or maybe you go for only things that are rough or bumpy or, cracked, and you can almost feel the texture. That's kind of what I was hoping with these images that I shared, is that you can kind of feel the texture. You know what this is going to feel like when you touched it. You know that this is going to be like the rough rope feeling. You know that this is going to be that smooth feeling. So shooting adjectives, shooting textures. Another fun one. So sorry, my house phone ringing twice today, and the only 2 times it's rang is while I am teaching a live class. So sorry. But shooting adjectives and textures, I think this is a great thing that you can do for yourself. Kind of walk around your house, and I think you're going to notice different things in your house. Maybe you haven't noticed things are as smooth, as hard, or dirty. That's kind of the thing that a lot of people describe to me as like, Emily, you sent me on this scavenger hunt around my house, and all it did was make me realize I have dust bunnies all over my floor. That happens, but it's okay. Photograph them, right? So holidays. Who says you can't pull out all your Christmas lights and ornaments right now and take your photos for your holiday card? Who says, right? There are no rules in quarantine other than to stay safe. So I have heard many stories about different communities across America who actually pulled out their Christmas lights and put Christmas lights back up. Just kind of like a nice way of saying, hey, here's something to make you smile. Because I don't know about you guys, but those always make me smile. So why not? We just had Easter here, so there are some of those eggs that we dyed. So you can photograph some holiday images. Maybe you probably can't find a pumpkin, but maybe you have some pumpkin or Halloween lights, or you bring out your Christmas lights. Maybe every year you say, you know what, I really want to photograph this particular Christmas ornament, but you never do. Pull it down from the attic. Pull it out. Who cares? Set it up. Doesn't have to be December just for you to take pictures of Christmas or Hanukkah. Absolutely not. It can be any time of the year. And same goes if you have maybe something for St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day. Why not? And actually, I think I mentioned this at the end with my ideas. Why not make a calendar? Who says? I think it would be really fun. Now I'm kind of like nerdy about holidays and things like that, but I think it'd be really fun if you had a photo for every month of the year where you could take something that represents January, take something that represents February, create a calendar for yourself for 2021, right? Because 2021 is going to be so much better, and we're actually going to be able to enjoy the first half of the year. So you're going to be so happy you have this beautiful calendar, and you can think happy thoughts, say, I can't wait to go outside today because I remembered I made this when I was quarantined, but today I get to go outside. So just something to think about. Another idea I hear all the time where people are like, oh, I'll try that again next year. Oh, what a great idea to photograph, Christmas lights behind a gumdrop. I didn't think of that. Who says you have to wait till December or Thanksgiving? Maybe some of you are November people for your holiday stuff. Whatever. Pull it out. Have fun. Now, a couple sources of inspiration. Now, you've heard me say about Wit Enry a few times. His entire Instagram is just chock full. I'll show you guys a couple of examples. Another one of mine is Walter Wick Studio. This gentleman, Walter Wick, this image on the right, some of you may be familiar with. This is from one of the I Spy books. Walter Wick is actually the photographer from the I Spy books, and he is one of my absolute biggest inspirations since I was a child. And as an adult, and knowing how to photograph images and how photography is created, this was photographed with an 8x10 film camera. So none of this stuff is photoshopped. He set this up in studio, and he posts a lot of behind the scenes stuff. He's an older gentleman now. He's been photographing for years. It's incredible what he's able to create. Now one of my biggest joys in life is actually introducing RJ to his work in those I Spy books. They are phenomenal. Actually, for my 30th birthday, my husband got me one of his books. In his book, it's about light, and it's written for kids, but he photographs some of the most unique things about light. It was just amazing. So anyways, I could talk about Walter Wick all day. I want so badly for him to come visit Massachusetts so I can just meet him and gush over him and just say how much I love his work. It's funny because these are the people that inspire me, but these are not necessarily the photos that I take. And I think that's important because just because you hear this a lot, I think this is a good point. I don't think I've actually thought about this. And I hope some of you, while I'm talking, you're playing the game by reading down here and actually looking for these images or these objects. I think it's really important that you don't always have to, you can be inspired by something, but not necessarily influenced by it. So you hear a lot about musicians, right? So, somebody who's a country music star might tell you, I don't listen to country music. Why did I use that as an example? Let me pick somebody else. Okay. Okay. Some rap artists, for example, will cite country music stars or old classic rock artists or even classical music as inspiration. And you think, that's so weird. Your music isn't anything like that. Well, they're inspired by it. It's not necessarily influenced by it. They're just inspired by it. So that's kind of how I feel about these guys. Twiggy Abby, you saw an image of hers as well, but that, again, I just wanted to give you her handle there. She, again, does a lot of those flat lays. And Erin Outdoors. Erin Outdoors is actually a travel photographer. She's a new find for me. But what she has done is she is dying in her house, basically. It's just killing her because she's a travel photographer. She travels the entire world over, has been all these places. This is what she's doing. So here's the image she created from this. So she's taking the same kind of thing I am. I bet you this came in an Amazon package too. And what she's done is she's formed it to look like Antelope Canyon. And she's got these teeny tiny little people that she uses to make it appear as if she's shooting travel photos. She's doing this right in her house. So what another great idea for you guys to try. Her Instagram is full of these, and she always shows the behind the scenes. So she would be a great person for you guys to check out. So I'm going to show you that real quick because I do want you to see. So here's another image from Walter Wick. I love this, you know, just what an inspiration. It's not always these big scenes that he creates. This is another one from one of the I Spy books. But one of the things, if you guys look at this, yes, he has a studio, but I mean, I bet you could find a lot of this stuff in your house. You know, this is just colanders and cheese graters, and they're just lit in particular ways. So he has some great inspiration. Now, this is that Twiggy Abbey. You can see here, these are those paintings that she creates, which are gorgeous, but she does a lot of these beautiful, you know, natural images, which can be a really nice source of inspiration. She also likes rainbow colors, so that can be really nice. And I mean rocks, you know, she does a lot of arranging of rocks and things like that. Now, here's that Erin Outdoors. All of these, again, are taken in her house. And now some of them are obvious. You're like, yeah, well, that's pancakes. And it just looks like, you know, some kind of like stacks from Great Pancake Canyon, as she says. And others, you're like, yeah, okay. I kind of can tell that that's in a house. We'll let that load in a second. I can kind of tell that's in the house, but what is it made out of, you know? And so she gives you these beautiful behind the scenes look. Oh, look at that cotton batting. All things she's doing inside safely. And last but not least, my ultimate favorite. When I tell you that this guy on a regular, I mean, look at this. Paper clips. This is incredible. Now he's done all of these beautiful, again, the creation made out of paper clips. Van Gogh out of Lucky Charms. Another Van Gogh out of some more cereal. And I love this. American Gothic out of toothpicks. Great Wave out of Tic Tacs. And the Kiss made out of all kinds of candy. How incredible. So just some great inspiration there for you guys. But again, you're going to get this, so you'll get all those handles. But they're all things that these people are doing indoors, and that just, I think, is some nice inspiration. Now, there's other projects. Now, it's not just about shooting, right? We got to keep you guys busy. So one thing you can do, organize your photos. I can't stress this enough. I just taught a class this morning on file management. We have a couple of classes on file management, but it's one of the best things you can be doing for yourself. And while you're organizing, you should also be culling your images. Delete your bad images. I started 2020 with over 20,000 images in my Lightroom catalog. And I would say less than 10% of those are even photos that are even worth me doing anything with. But I get lazy, right? I just want to get to the good ones. So I bring all the photos into Lightroom, I pick a couple, I edit them, and I get them out. I wasn't taking the time to actually go back and delete the photos. So that is what I'm doing now. And I'm down to 16,000. So I'm pretty happy about that. So that's been a good project for me. And I encourage you to do the same. One thing you should be doing, learn a new technical aspect of photography, such as back button focus or hyperfocal distance. Maybe there's something in photography that you just don't understand. Now is the time. Now is the time to reach out to myself, Ron, Dawn, Paul, one of the educators, Facebook group, somebody in Hunts. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to steer you down the right path. Re-edit old images. It's incredible how much technology has changed. You know, Lightroom has advanced, and Capture One is now available for other people other than Phase 1 users, and there's all these different programs. Well, you might have a favorite photo from years ago that probably could do with a re-edit. Take a look at some of your old favorites, re-edit them, see new techniques that you can apply. Or one of my favorite things to do in Lightroom is I create a copy of the image and I start fresh and I edit it from scratch again and I compare the two. What my old style was to what my new style is. Kind of see, what have I learned? Have I refined it? What things have I forgotten about? Maybe I used to do something and I don't do it as much. It's kind of a nice thing. Study a style of photography you do not usually shoot, such as fashion portraits or street photography. What are you going to be shooting when all this is said and done? You know, if you can do anything you wanted to today, what do you wish you were doing? Well, fashion portraits, that's one that I don't do. I don't know how to take a picture of somebody and show the clothes off. It's not really what I do. That's definitely something I would like to work on. Can I work on in the quarantine? Not so much. I don't live with any fashionable people. RJ could actually probably pose in the clothes for me, but it wouldn't be the effect I'd want. My husband definitely would not be interested, and neither would my dogs. But street photography, I'm really passionate about street photography. And even though I'm passionate about it, I think I can always get better at it. So that's one of those things that I'm definitely taking the time, just taking a look at some articles, looking up some old styles, some old photographers, kind of seeing. Because, I thought I was going to segue nicely there, but it's important that we keep the hope, keep the faith of what are we going to do after this? You know, what are we going to do when we can do things again? And one of those is going to be to plan out your future shoots. Now, I don't mean just make a list of like, yeah, I really want to shoot in Newport, Rhode Island. I do. That's actually on my list. I haven't been there. I'm dying to shoot in Rhode Island. I've only really shot at the Roger Williams Park Zoo, and that's not any part of Rhode Island that is authentic, I'd say. You know, I want Rhode Island. So I really want to go down to Newport, Bristol, that kind of stuff, Block Island, explore that. And I'm not just going to put that down and say, yeah, I'm going to go to Block Island. I can't just say I'm going to go to Newport. One, I'm a mom. My life just doesn't work that way. I can't just be like, yeah, this is what I'm doing this weekend. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I work full time, and I'm a photographer. So I got a lot going on. And I'm not just going to put this down. I'm going to plan the whole thing out. I'm going to take a look at different websites, Pinterest, Instagram, Google. I'm going to Google top things to do in Newport. I'm going to make a list of what interests me. And I like to use Google Maps. I talk about this a lot in some of my landscape classes and my astro class. I use Google Maps for everything, but I make custom maps for, say, for example, Buffalo. I went to Buffalo for the first time for my birthday this year back in January. My husband surprised me. And so when I get these tickets to go to Buffalo, I'm like, oh, goodness, we're leaving in 3 weeks and I have no idea what's in Buffalo. So all I did, I created a map, and anything I found on Pinterest, Google, etc., that it seemed like a good idea, I would add it to my Google Maps. And I would, and this is where my type A-ness comes in. I like to organize, but what type of shot it is, you know, is it a landscape, an architecture? Is it a someplace I want to take a picture of their food? Or am I taking it in the daytime or at nighttime? And what direction am I going to be facing? Is it a sunset shot? Is it a sunrise shot? Does it matter? Is it indoors? I get very specific about that. That way, on the day of, when I'm actually in Buffalo and I'm trying to plan it out, if it's raining, I can say, oh, here's my backup plan. Here are all my indoor stuff that I can kind of pull out because I'm already planned. I've planned it ahead. Why not plan it now, right? And one of the best things you can do is study past photographers such as Sally Mann, Fred Herzog, Ansel Adams, etc. You could easily Google, you know, top photographers everyone should know, most famous photographers, all photographer students should know. There's all kinds of lists. I think adding the word students in is helpful because then you're going to really kind of hear about what would a traditional photography school talk about? Who do they think is most important? So you'll get lists like that, as opposed to who's just the most popular now. You know, there are a lot of photographers who are very technically skilled and have really great ideas, and they're famous on social media. So we don't get to talk about them as much. They don't get to come out as much, but you might have a couple people that you're really interested in. But I always think it's good to look at past photographers. Ansel Adams, I actually saw his exhibit twice in the MFA. It was unbelievable, really inspiring. You know, it showed a lot more of his work. A lot of people just think of him and they think kind of like the great American West. But he shot so much more than just landscapes. He did a lot of portraits, and a lot of beautiful stuff. And it was really amazing hearing people be like, I can't believe he's so famous. Like, I can't believe, you know, they're really criticizing his work. And you can't put a 2020 filter on photos that were taken that long ago. You know, this man invented the zone system, people. And if you don't know what the zone system is, it has to do with black and white photography, but he's a legend. Sally Mann, absolutely incredible photographer. Her work with her family is really ethereal and moving. And Fred Herzog is undeniably one of my absolute favorite photographers of all time. He is a street photographer from the 50s and 60s that did some incredible stuff with color film. You might have heard of Eggleston. There's just Avedon. I mean, there's just a huge list of photographers you could study. And again, you can be inspired by them, but you don't have to be influenced by them. So I don't take black and white portraits, but I think Avedon's work is incredible. But while I'm inspired by it, I'm not going to then turn around and take these really high contrast black and white portraits. Just not my style. So now, here is my huge list of everything else. I could have gone on. I had to keep kind of like pulling myself back. So let me just describe a couple of these. Prepositions in particular, I talk about this constantly. You'll hear me say this a lot. You should shoot your prepositions. What I mean is shoot above, shoot below, shoot down, shoot by it, shoot behind it. You know, think about those words walk around your subject. So once you figure out what it is of these things you want to shoot your prepositions. Because sometimes it's not just, maybe you know what you want to shoot, you just don't know how to shoot it. Use that. Now, colors can be really fun. You can either challenge yourself to say, this week I'm only going to photograph red. You know, either everything has to be red or red's the main color. Or you can do by days of the week, where today it's red, tomorrow's orange, the next day is yellow. You can decide. Or you decide it's rainbows. I want to take every photo I can that has as many colors as I can. It's up to you, but it could be a fun challenge. Now, A to Z can be interpreted a couple of different ways, and I have it listed A to Z and A to Z shapes. A to Z could be, I'm going to shoot the letter A today, so I'm only going to photograph things that begin with the letter A. Or you can do something where it's A to Z shapes, where I'm only going to photograph items that are arranged in the shape of a letter. So maybe you can do this a couple of different ways. You can see this, it's just like unending list of ideas. So you could take apples and arrange them in the letter A, because A began with apples. Or you might be in your home and there's a ladder set up and the ladder is shaped like a letter A. You might have seen these. They sell them a lot in kind of like gift shops. I've seen them a lot in like New York City, where it'll be photos of everyday objects and everyday things, but they look like letters, and it will spell somebody's name. So you can buy the name Emily, but it's not actually the letter E. It's, you know, steel that is on a bridge that looks like the letter E. So that's what I mean by A to Z shapes. Now, shapes in general, this again, you can say, I'm only going to photograph circles today. Only going to photograph triangles. I want squares. It doesn't have to be an exact circle. It could be items that are arranged in a circle, or something that looks round. You know, maybe you shoot right angles all day, or you want to shoot only curves. Options, right? Shoot through items. What I mean by that is find kind of translucent things or mesh. Try to shoot through them. That could be really unique. Hardware. You know, I talked about supplies. In my basement, we have like peanut butter jars and stuff on the ceiling, and right now, if I reached up and stood up and unscrewed the peanut butter jar, it's full of nails, and each one's full of screws. I mean, there's hundreds of them everywhere. This whole basement, I mean, if I look up, there's all kinds of like washer fittings. There's tons of stuff here. All of this becomes really interesting objects that I could either make look like something else, the way Erin Outdoors does, or Walter Witt does, or I can arrange them in a unique way like Wit Enry and create this beautiful thing. Or I can photograph it like a product. I have that listed here somewhere. Products, product photography. We're surrounded by products in our home. You can practice product photography as if, okay, I'm going to take a picture of this orange juice because I'm going to try to sell this orange juice. How fun, right? What a great way to start learning about other types of photography. Antiques and heirlooms, something that your family owns that maybe you've always wanted to photograph. Backyard visitors. If you live in a place that you have birds or wildlife coming to your backyard, awesome, photograph them. Now, document your home inside and document your home outside. I mean strictly document. Take a picture of what your home looks like in April of 2020. This is one of those things, because years from now, when you see a random snapshot, and you're like, oh my God, look, remember when we had that cabinet? Or remember when the walls were painted that color? This happens to me always. My childhood home was redone in 2003, like completely. We gutted the walls and rebuilt the entire house. So to see photos from the 90s and see photos now, it's incredible, and it's so fun to say, oh yeah, remember when we had that, remember we had this. And the same goes for the outside, because things change, and it will be really fun. And I know this seems crazy, but the same with documenting your street and neighborhood. And you see me, I say safely. Fred Herzog, he's shooting in the 50s and the 60s. He's not worried about, oh, there's too many cars in the street, I don't want these cars in there. He knew that it's important to photograph what the cars look like in the 50s and the 60s. And it's the same thing now. Photograph what your street looks like in 2020, because it's not going to look that way even 5 years from now. And you'll see over here, I added your car. Could be another object that, photograph your car in a unique way if you have one. You can take the sunrise or sunset every day. One of those things where I said recreate old family photos. One of the things, a couple of museums have challenged this, to try to recreate famous artwork. So using whatever, either using yourself, or you can try to, use cereal and create Starry Night. So many things you can do here. And then just a couple of things. Shooting your culture or heritage, what's your background? What's your nationality? Do you have a way of representing that in a photograph? How awesome would that be? A way for you to tell your story, tell all of us at Hans a little bit more about yourself through photography by sharing your heritage, your culture, or your history through an image. I think that would be really nice. And then materials. Deciding, maybe today I'm only going to photograph things that are made out of glass. Only going to photograph things made out of metal. Only out of wool. It's just another idea. So, what do you guys have? How did I do on time? Bam! What a hangout. We're doing great. So, let me pull this down. I'm going to grab my questions over here, see if anybody has a question. I see a hand raised. Let me check here, my question section. Looks like there's a bunch of questions. Great, okay. Let me take a look. And again, if you guys have ideas, I'm gonna add them in here, and I'm gonna leave this up so you guys can see my name, my email, and my Instagram in case you guys need anything. So let's see here. Oh, Eugene, thank you so much. Happy you are here. Yes, Kim understands. She says she has cats and have spent enough time at the ER vets to build a wing. Yeah, I've spent enough time and money at my animal hospital as well. I think I could definitely put a couple of those vets through college. That's for their kids through college. That's for sure. But thank you. Let's see, Matt and Ella. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Horn Pond is open, but I've stayed away because it seems crowded at times. Good to know, Matt. Thank you. So that's good to know. So a lot of these places do seem open, but they do seem crowded. I found the same thing, being in Lynn. We drive down Lynn Shore Drive quite often, and they've closed it down for parking. But you can still visit the beach. But I noticed like a week ago, people are still gathering there. Let's not be crazy. Let's not be crazy. What macro lens do you recommend? Excellent question, Michelle. I have a couple of recommendations. So depending, of course, what brand you have, Nikon has the 105 macro is the best lens I think they make. I think that's dynamite. It's very expensive. It's over $1,000, but it's really good. And Canon makes a 100 millimeter macro 2.8. That's amazing. Also one of the best lenses that they make. Now, every brand has a macro lens, but Tamron and Sigma make dynamite macro lenses. I own the Tamron 90 millimeter 2.8 macro, and I love it. That is most of these macro photos that are mine were taken with that 90 millimeter Tamron macro lens. I love it. It's less expensive than the Nikon, but it works just as well, and I'm happy with it. I also bought it used for way less money, so I was super happy about that. I also recommend the Lens Baby Velvet 56. The Velvet 56 does have macro capabilities. So while it's not a true macro, you can get pretty close. And that's another one of my favorite lenses. Hello, Mary. Nice to see you. Let's see. Michelle says, paper towel idea. You can also use coffee filters. Yes. So that paper towel that I kind of had tie-dyed from using the eggs, yes, you can use coffee filters. So if you put a little bit of food coloring on a coffee filter and then add water, you can create these beautiful tie-dye effects and can make a really fun abstract to photograph. Another thing, when it comes to art supplies, if you have paint, maybe you have some acrylic paint hanging around, you can just, kind of pour the paint together, make some swirls, another beautiful abstract for you to photograph. Ward says, photoelasticity, is the light source the screen or a flashlight? The screen. It is completely the screen. So it's lit from behind by the screen, and I have a little bit of ambient light, but you're seeing that rainbow because of the type of light that's coming from your computer screen. And my apologies, I think, bubble in my throat, I think it's linear. I think is what it's called. It has linear light or something like that, but the light is coming from my computer screen. And to do that, all I did was it seems silly, but in Photoshop, I created a document the exact size of my computer screen that was pure white. And so with that white screen, I was able to use it as the light. Let's see. What lens do you use when doing street photography? Great question, Judy. My favorite focal length, I'm using a full frame camera for street photography. I love 35 millimeters. That is kind of like my sweet spot. And I live between 35 millimeters to about 60 millimeters at a maximum. So if you have, say, a 24 to 70, that's a great street lens, and 18 to 55 can be great. But the benefit of a street lens, what you really want when it comes to street photography, you want something that's fast. And a fast lens is one that has a wide aperture. So for me, I love a 35 millimeter 1.8. That's a nice inexpensive, high quality lens. If I can go even higher than that, I might go for a Sigma 35 1.4 Art Series lens, get a little bit more aperture, but I'm getting really high quality results. So I like a 35 millimeter. Yeah, I'm in Rhode Island, and Newport is great. Thanks, Kim. I'm so looking forward to discovering what Rhode Island has to offer. Let's see. What are your suggestions for taking photos of flowers that are in sunlight if you don't have the professional equipment? Excellent question. I have a couple of suggestions. One thing that you can do, and what you need to do, is try to soften the light. The problem that you're having is that the light is just too harsh on your flowers, probably. That tends to be the case. So what I will do, if I can, I will actually stand in front of the flower so that I can now photo or try to block the light. So now I'm photographing that flower in pure shade. What this does, though, is it gives you a flatter light. So you lose some of the shadows and contrast, but you gain a nice overall effect. So I like to diffuse the light. You can buy a diffuser, but you might not have the equipment. One thing, this seems silly, but one thing you can do is actually use paper towels, because paper towels are slightly translucent. They will soften that light, and on a really bright day, could be what you need, especially if you don't have that. Samantha, I have some ideas. I hope you do. It looks like maybe you're gonna send some to me, but please, let's see some. I love that. I liked the collection idea. Paperweights. Jane, I love hearing that. Jane sounds like she collects paperweights. I can't wait to see your collection. I really hope you're gonna post that on our Facebook page. We do have a Facebook group called Hunt's Photo and Hunt's Education and Photo Walks, where I encourage all of you to post some of these images here. Paperweights, great idea. Breakheart in Saugus and Wakefield, another great spot. Thank you, Dan. Absolutely happy to hear that's open. Yes, Breakheart is great. It can be really, really great. If you're coming in from the Saugus side, you can guarantee yourself a really good walk too, because there's some good hills in there, and really, really dynamite areas to get some water landscapes and to maybe catch a photo of a dog running by. You can get some good stuff. Let's see. After this, I want to take a picture with the soap and oil. Awesome. I really hope you will, Abigail. That sounds great. What happens if your camera is broken and can't get fixed? Can you use a cell phone for this? Heck yeah, you can. You can use any camera, even a film camera. It'll just be a little bit longer before you see it. But yes, my tips if you're going to use your phone. You can get wicked close with your phone, but if the camera will not focus for you, or it won't, if it doesn't look sharp, pull back a little bit and crop in. Do not crop too much, though, if using a phone, because you will lose crazy, crazy amounts of resolution. But you probably know this, but to focus with your phone, tap on the subject. And when you tap, if you long hold and push up or down, you can usually brighten or darken the photo, and that should help you. Absolutely. Don't worry. If you have a broken camera, no worries. You absolutely can use your phone. On your camera, can you make it black and white? Absolutely you can. The picture, yes, you can. So all cameras have the ability of turning the photos into black and white, but you can always do it later. What I would recommend, if you're shooting a JPEG, keep it in color and then just convert it to a black and white later. But if you're shooting RAW, you can turn it into a black and white and it will still be color later. That's for another class, but absolutely, Abigail. Take a look at your picture style. Depends on the camera you have. Feel free to email me. It might be called your picture style. But that's where you're going to see the words monochrome. You want to look for monochrome, and that's how you'll turn it to black and white. Regarding the documenting your home, it can also be saved in a special place for insurance purposes. John, absolutely. What a great idea, John. Definitely. Photograph it for insurance. That is a great idea. I'm not sure. This goes off on a little bit of a tangent, but I listen to a podcast. I love podcasts, and I like true crime podcasts. I listen to this podcast called Cold, and actually, a big part of that podcast had to do with the victim had photographed all of their items, and it was a good thing to have, and the insurance was happy she had it, so it can be great. Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you, Rebecca, for signing up for my pet workshop. Thank you so much. I'm going to really work on techniques, and we're going to talk more technical that day as well. What was the name of the Facebook page? Yes, our Facebook page is called Hunt's Education and Photo Walks. So Hunt's Education and Photo Walks. You can add that in, and you should see it. It's a private group. You just have to ask to join. It will ask you, have you taken a class? You can tell them, absolutely, you took this today. It's a private group, so none of your friends will see that you posted there, and it can be a really safe place to ask questions. I'll be very honest. I'm bad about using Facebook. I try to avoid it, honestly, especially with everything that's going on. But I do check the page when I can, so you can always tag me. It might take me a while to get back to you, but absolutely, we'd be happy to have you. Let's see what else we got here. Awesome. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys like this. All right, let's see. Oh, thanks, Eugene. Great to have you. At one time, I saw that you could buy past classes, but I can't seem to find it again. No problem, Mary. All you have to do, if you see a class that has already happened, whether it's free or it was paid, all you need to do is email Paul, and his email is Nelson. So P is in Paul, and then Nelson, Nelson, at huntsphoto.com. You could also email classes@huntsphoto.com, which might be a little bit easier to remember, but classes@huntsphoto.com, and then you'll be able to let us know which class you're interested in, and we can send you a link for that. Thank you so much. I hope my furry baby is feeling better as well, Tina. I'm gonna run upstairs and see if we've heard from the vet. But I'm really 3 cheers for luck. She's gonna be fine. She just has a fever. They think she might have pneumonia, and that makes me nervous. So we're gonna find out. Oh, thank you, Joyce. I'm glad you loved my energy. I feel a little low energy today. So if you can imagine that this is me being low energy, you can imagine what I'm like most of the time. But anyways, so excited. Hope you guys had fun today. Hope you're inspired. I'm excited. I'm excited to take some pictures right after this. But I hope you guys are well. Stay safe. I cannot wait to hang out in person again. But in the meantime, keep hanging out. We'll be happy to have you. But stay safe, guys. I'll send you an email really soon. Oh, thanks, Michelle. I wish I could see you guys too. But I'll send you guys an email. It'll be about 24 to 48 hours because the video takes a while to process. But I'll send it to you guys as soon as I can. Thank you so much. Thanks, Dan. I hope you guys had fun, and be well, be safe, and really, really wishing you guys all the best. All the absolute best. Bye, guys.